Every day you have two powerful choices: to get lost in distractions or to return to yourself with gratitude. The moment you turn inward, you begin to unlock strength, clarity, and joy that no outside noise can steal. Gratitude shifts your brain, rewires your energy, and fuels your growth. Focusing on yourself isn't selfish, it's essential. When you fill your own cup with presence and thankfulness, you overflow with resilience and compassion for others. Start today, choose you, choose gratitude, and transform your life from the inside out. When we talk about focus, most people immediately think of productivity. They think about how to get more work done, how to stay off their phones, how to check more boxes on that endless to-do list. But when I say focus on yourself, I mean something far more powerful than efficiency. I'm talking about the ability to turn your attention inward, to give yourself the same energy, care, and priority that you so often give to the outside world. Because here's the truth: your brain is literally shaped by what you choose to pay attention to. Think about that for a moment. Every time you focus on something, you strengthen the neural pathways connected to it. It's like building a muscle. If you constantly focus on your worries, your brain gets better at worrying. If you focus on what you don't have, your brain gets better at feeling lack. But if you turn your attention to yourself, to your strengths, your values, your growth, you're building a brain that is resilient, centered, and deeply aligned with who you want to become. That's not selfish. That's survival. That's thriving. Now, let's be honest. We live in a world that constantly pulls our focus away from ourselves. Notifications, headlines, opinions, endless comparisons. Our attention is scattered in 1,000 different directions before breakfast. And when your focus is everywhere else, you lose connection with yourself. You stop noticing your own needs, your own energy, your own dreams. You wake up one day exhausted, unfulfilled, wondering why you feel so empty when you've been working so hard. That is what happens when focus is directed outward, but never inward. But the good news is this attention is a skill. And like any skill, it can be trained. You can learn to take back your focus. You can learn to say, wait, I'm going to pause. I'm going to check in with myself. And each time you do, you are literally rewiring your brain to come back home to you. One of the simplest ways to start is to create small daily rituals of self-focus. It might be as easy as taking one deep, intentional breath in the middle of a busy day. Just one breath that reminds you, I am here. I am alive. I matter. Or maybe it's journaling for 5 minutes every morning, not about what you need to do, but about how you want to feel, what you want to bring into the day. These small acts are not trivial. They are brain training. They teach your mind to return its spotlight to the person who needs it most, you. And when you practice focusing on yourself, something incredible happens. You begin to notice the difference between reacting to life and consciously creating it. Instead of being pulled by every demand or distraction, you anchor into a sense of clarity. You begin to ask, what is actually important to me today? And what can I let go of? That clarity is powerful. It keeps you steady when everything around you feels chaotic. Now, some of you might still be thinking, but isn't focusing on myself selfish? Let me answer that directly. No. In fact, it is the opposite. When you neglect yourself, when you constantly drain your energy in service of everything and everyone else, you eventually have nothing left to give. But when you focus inward, when you fill your own cup, you show up with more strength, more patience, more compassion for others. Focusing on yourself is what allows you to bring your best self to the world. So I want you to think about where your focus has been going lately. Is it scattered across the noise, the distractions, the comparisons? Or is it anchored on the one thing you can actually grow, shape, and strengthen yourself? Because where your attention goes, your brain follows. Where your brain goes, your life follows. So here's the challenge. Make the choice every single day to turn that powerful spotlight of focus inward. Train it, strengthen it, protect it, because the quality of your focus is the quality of your life. Gratitude. We hear that word so often that sometimes it feels almost too simple, doesn't it? Be grateful. Write down what you're thankful for. Say thank you more often. But I want you to know that gratitude is not just a nice idea. It's not a fluffy practice that makes you feel good for a few moments. Gratitude is a profound, scientifically proven tool that can rewire your brain and transform the way you experience your life. When you practice gratitude, you're not just thinking happy thoughts. You're activating neural pathways in the brain that release dopamine and serotonin, the chemicals that help regulate mood, motivation, and well-being. Over time, those pathways get stronger. Think of it as building the gratitude muscle inside your brain. The more you use it, the easier it becomes to see the good, to find meaning, even in the middle of difficulty. And here's the fascinating part. Gratitude doesn't just change how you feel emotionally, it changes your body. Studies show that people who practice daily gratitude sleep better, have lower levels of stress hormones, and even show improvements in immune function. Think about that. Simply by focusing on what you are thankful for, you're actually strengthening your health, your resilience, and your energy. That's the power of gratitude as brain training. Now, you might be wondering, if gratitude is so powerful, why don't we naturally live in it all the time? The reason is that our brains evolved with a built-in negativity bias. That means your brain is wired to notice threats, dangers, and problems far more easily than it notices blessings or opportunities. This bias helped our ancestors survive. But today it often traps us in cycles of worry, fear, or dissatisfaction. Gratitude is one of the most effective ways to retrain that bias. It shifts the spotlight from what's missing or wrong to what's present and good. And when you shift that spotlight, everything looks different. I want you to imagine waking up tomorrow and before reaching for your phone, before rushing into the day, you take just 1 minute to name 3 things you're grateful for. Not grand things, simple ones. The breath in your lungs, the sun coming through your window, the fact that you have someone in your life who cares about you. That 1 minute begins to prime your brain for the rest of the day. Suddenly, instead of rushing into stress, you're stepping into gratitude. And that shift changes how you interact, how you respond, and how you carry yourself. And it doesn't stop there. Gratitude also changes relationships. When you express genuine appreciation to someone, whether it's a partner, a coworker, or even a stranger, you're not only uplifting their day, you're strengthening the connection between you. You're activating brain circuits that foster trust, empathy, and cooperation. Gratitude is contagious. When you practice it, others feel it, and they often pass it on. In a very real sense, gratitude creates ripple effects that extend far beyond you. Now, I want to be clear. Gratitude is not about ignoring pain or pretending everything is perfect. Life is challenging. We all face setbacks, heartbreak, uncertainty. But gratitude is about finding the light even in those moments. It's about asking, what can I still hold on to? What can I still learn? What small good thing is still here? When you do that, you shift from being consumed by what's wrong to being strengthened by what's right. So gratitude is not a luxury. It's not something to practice only when life feels easy. It is a daily discipline, a deliberate choice, a way of training your brain to see possibility, to see hope, to see joy in the middle of everything else. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes, until gratitude is no longer just something you do, but part of who you are. So tonight, when your head hits the pillow, before you close your eyes, take 1 moment to ask yourself, what am I grateful for today? And let that answer remind you that no matter what's happening around you, there is always something worth noticing, something worth holding close. Gratitude is not just a feeling. It is the fuel that transforms your brain, your body, and your life. When I say focus on yourself, I want to make something very clear. This is not about turning inward to hide from the world, and it's not about ignoring the people who matter to you. Focusing on yourself is about building the foundation you need so you can rise stronger in every other part of your life. It's about creating the inner stability, the mental energy, the emotional strength that allows you to thrive when life throws challenges your way. Think about it this way. If you've ever flown on an airplane, you've heard the safety announcement. Put your own oxygen mask on first before helping others. And we all understand why. If you can't breathe, you can't help anyone else. That's exactly how it works in your daily life. If you don't focus on yourself, on your health, your energy, your mental well-being, sooner or later, you'll run out of oxygen. You'll burn out. You'll collapse under the weight of responsibilities, and you'll have nothing left to give to your family, your work, or your community. When you focus on yourself, you're not being selfish. You're being strategic. You're investing in the one thing that powers everything else you do, your mind and your body. And here's where the science is fascinating. When you give yourself the time to rest, to move your body, to quiet your mind, you're actually recharging the very systems that regulate memory, focus, and creativity. You're strengthening your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision making and problem solving. You're lowering activity in the amygdala, the part of your brain that triggers fear and stress. In other words, you are literally training your brain to handle challenges better when you take care of yourself first. I've seen so many people wear exhaustion like a badge of honor. They push themselves nonstop, thinking that self-neglect is the price of success. But in reality, when you're constantly depleted, you make worse decisions, you react more emotionally, and you lose perspective. True success doesn't come from running yourself into the ground. It comes from building a strong inner core that sustains you through ups and downs. So how do you start focusing on yourself in a healthy way? It doesn't require dramatic changes. It starts with awareness. Ask yourself, what do I actually need today? Maybe it's sleep. Maybe it's moving your body for 20 minutes. Maybe it's saying no to one more demand on your time so you can say yes to your own peace of mind. Each time you make a choice that honors your well-being, you're sending a signal to your brain, I matter. My energy matters. My growth matters. And those signals over time build resilience. And here's something else. When you focus on yourself, you begin to know yourself more deeply. You start noticing patterns. What lifts your energy? What drains it? What aligns with your values? What pulls you away from them? That kind of self-awareness is priceless because it gives you a compass. It guides your decisions in a world full of noise. It allows you to move from living reactively to living intentionally. And let me tell you, when you are centered, when you are aligned with yourself, people around you feel it. They notice your calm in chaos. They notice your clarity in confusion, and that presence inspires them. So focusing on yourself is not only a gift to you, it becomes a gift to everyone you interact with. So I want to challenge you to flip the script. Instead of asking, what do I need to get done today? Start asking, how can I strengthen myself today so I can bring my best to whatever comes? Because life will always be unpredictable. Challenges will always come. But when you've built strength inside yourself, you meet those challenges from a place of power, not depletion. Remember this, you cannot pour from an empty cup. Focus on yourself and you'll have the energy, the clarity, and the strength to lift everyone and everything else around you. Focusing on yourself is not selfish. It is the starting point of real strength. We've talked about focus and we've talked about gratitude, but the real transformation happens when these ideas move from concepts to daily practice. It's one thing to understand why gratitude matters or why focusing on yourself builds strength. It's another to actually live it day after day. And that's where practical tools come in. Because no matter how inspiring something sounds, if it doesn't fit into the rhythm of your everyday life, it will fade away. The truth is our brains thrive on repetition. The more consistently you practice something, the more those neural pathways grow. So what you do in small, simple moments each day shapes the person you're becoming. You don't need grand gestures to change your brain. You just need consistent, intentional practice. One of the most powerful tools I recommend is gratitude journaling. And I don't mean writing pages and pages, just 3 things each morning or evening that you're grateful for. They don't have to be big. In fact, the smaller and more specific, the better. Maybe it's the sound of laughter you heard at dinner. Maybe it's the fact that your body carried you through a tough workout. Maybe it's that first sip of coffee in the morning. Writing these down does something incredible. It trains your brain to notice good things as they happen, not just in hindsight. It rewires your focus so that positivity is not an accident, but a habit. Another tool is mindful breathing. You don't need to carve out hours to meditate. Start with 1 minute. 1 minute where you close your eyes, breathe deeply, and simply notice your breath. That 1 minute shifts your nervous system. It lowers stress hormones. It quiets the noise in your brain. And when you make that a daily practice, even just for 60 seconds, you start to carry more calm into every part of your life. Setting intentions is another small but transformative habit. At the start of your day, before the world demands your attention, pause and ask yourself, how do I want to show up today? Maybe the answer is patient. Maybe it's energized. Maybe it's grateful. That one question shifts you from reacting to life to leading it. It gives your brain a target, a direction, and your actions begin to align with it. Now, here's the key. These practices don't take much time, but they compound. Think of them like drops of water filling a glass. One drop doesn't look like much, but day after day, those drops add up. Before you know it, your brain, your body, your perspective, they're all different. You're calmer in situations that used to stress you. You're quicker to see opportunities instead of obstacles. You're more present with the people around you. That's the power of small daily tools. And don't underestimate the ripple effect. When you take just a few minutes to anchor yourself each day, the benefits spread. You're less reactive in conversations. You bring more positivity into meetings, into family dinners, into every space you walk into. Your daily practices don't just change you, they change the energy you bring to the world. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. I don't have time, but here's the reality. You don't need more time. You need more intention. We all have 1 minute to breathe. We all have 30 seconds to write down 3 things we're grateful for. We all have a moment in the morning to set an intention before diving into emails or tasks. And the return on those tiny investments is enormous. So if you remember nothing else from this point, remember this change doesn't come from waiting for big breakthroughs. It comes from the daily practices that seem so small, but that shape your brain, your habits, and your life over time. Simple tools practiced consistently are the bridge between knowing what to do and actually becoming who you want to be. One of the things I love most about this work is that it isn't just philosophy or inspiration. It's grounded in science. And that matters because when you know the brain and body are literally designed to change in response to focus and gratitude, you start to realize how much power you really have in shaping your own life. This isn't about hoping for change. It's about creating it with practices that have measurable effects. Let's start with gratitude. We've already talked about how it feels emotionally, but research shows it goes much deeper. People who practice gratitude consistently report higher levels of life satisfaction and lower rates of depression and anxiety. That's not just a coincidence. Gratitude activates areas of the brain linked to pleasure, empathy, and social connection. It shifts the brain's chemistry toward balance and well-being. And over time, those shifts become your default state. It's not about pretending things are good when they're not. It's about strengthening the part of your brain that can hold on to what is good even in the middle of difficulty. Now let's look at the body. When you make gratitude a daily habit, studies show your sleep improves. Why? Because instead of lying in bed replaying worries or to-do lists, your brain is soothed by positive thoughts. Sleep becomes deeper, more restorative. And better sleep means more energy, better focus, and a stronger immune system. Gratitude also lowers cortisol, the stress hormone that, in high levels, can wreak havoc on your health. Lower cortisol means less inflammation, steadier moods, and even better heart health. So when you take just a few moments each day to practice gratitude, you're not only improving your mindset, you're literally improving your physical health. And then there's the power of focus. Neuroscience tells us that attention is like a spotlight. Wherever you shine it, that area of the brain gets stronger. So when you practice focusing on yourself, not in a self-absorbed way, but in a deliberate, intentional way, you strengthen the circuits for self-regulation, decision-making, and resilience. This means you become less reactive, less distracted, and more capable of staying grounded when life feels overwhelming. That is not theory. That is what we can see happening in the brain. What excites me most about all of this is how these practices, gratitude and focus, work together. When you direct your attention toward gratitude, you're training your brain to focus on what uplifts you instead of what drains you. It's a cycle. The more you practice, the stronger those pathways become and the easier it is to find gratitude the next time. Over time, this doesn't just shift how you think, it shifts how you live. And that brings us to real life. Because all of this science is fascinating, but it means nothing unless it touches how you actually experience your days. Imagine waking up tomorrow with more energy because you slept better, with more clarity because your brain is trained to focus, with more optimism because you've built those gratitude pathways. Imagine how that changes the way you handle a tough meeting, a stressful commute, or a hard conversation. Imagine how it changes the way you show up for your family, your colleagues, your community. These aren't small changes, they're life shaping. The science tells us something deeply empowering. You are not stuck with the brain you have right now. You are not stuck with the stress patterns, the negativity, the reactivity you might feel today. Your brain is plastic. It can change. And every time you practice gratitude, every time you reclaim your focus, you're shaping it into something stronger, calmer, and more resilient. So when you feel skeptical, when you wonder if these small practices really matter, remember the research. Remember that science backs up what your heart already knows, that focusing on yourself and practicing gratitude are not just good ideas, they are proven strategies to improve your brain, your body, and your life. The science is clear. Gratitude and focus don't just change how you feel, they change who you become. Everything we've been talking about, focus, gratitude, daily practices, the science behind it, all of it comes down to this: when you build strength inside yourself, it doesn't stay inside. It radiates outward. The energy you cultivate in your own mind and body has a ripple effect on every relationship, every interaction, every space you walk into. Think about the last time you were around someone who was grounded, calm, and present. You could feel it, right? Maybe you didn't even know why, but their energy shifted the entire atmosphere. That's the power of inner strength. It doesn't shout, it doesn't push, but it influences everything. And here's the most important part. You have that power too. When you focus on yourself and practice gratitude every day, you become that person who changes the room simply by the way you show up. Now let's flip the picture. Think about the last time you were around someone who was completely drained, stressed, or distracted. That energy spreads just as quickly. It impacts how others feel, how conversations unfold, and how connected people feel to each other. We are all constantly influencing one another. So the question isn't whether you have an impact. You always do. The question is, what kind of impact are you creating? When you focus inward, you give yourself the clarity to bring something positive outward. You listen more deeply because you're not caught up in your own noise. You lead with patience because your stress levels aren't running the show. You connect with more authenticity because you're not trying to prove your worth. You're already grounded in it. This is how personal growth becomes collective growth. This is how self-focus and gratitude move from being about you to being about us. And then let's talk about leadership. Whether you consider yourself a leader or not, every single one of you leads in some way. You lead in your family, in your workplace, in your community. And leadership is not about titles. It's about influence. The most effective leaders are not the loudest or the most controlling. They are the ones who have cultivated inner strength, who can hold steady when others are losing balance, who can see possibility when others only see obstacles. Gratitude and self-focus are the practices that build that kind of leadership. They anchor you so that others can anchor to you. This doesn't mean you'll always feel calm or grateful. Life will test you. You will have days where you feel stretched thin, where gratitude feels impossible, where focus slips through your fingers. But even on those days, the practices you've built will carry you. They'll help you reset more quickly, recover more fully, and return to yourself with more compassion. And when people see you navigate difficulty with that kind of resilience, it inspires them. It gives them permission to believe they can do the same. And that's really the beauty of it. This journey isn't just about creating a better life for yourself. It's about contributing to a better world around you. When you bring gratitude into your relationships, those relationships deepen. When you show up focused and present at work, the quality of collaboration rises. When you model resilience in the face of setbacks, others feel encouraged to rise with you. Your growth sparks growth in others. So here's what I want you to carry with you. Focusing on yourself and being grateful every day is not small, and it is not selfish. It is the foundation of every ripple you send out into the world. It is the fuel behind stronger relationships, better leadership, and a life of greater purpose. When you do this work for yourself, you are also doing it for everyone connected to you. Strengthen yourself. practice gratitude, and let your growth become the spark that lifts the world around you. Outro of this video, what would your life look like if instead of chasing distractions, you trained your mind to focus on you and fueled every day with gratitude? Science shows that where your attention goes, your brain grows. Gratitude rewires stress into strength, fear into clarity, and exhaustion into energy. This isn't about selfishness. It's about survival, resilience, and purpose. Every choice to turn inward and be grateful builds the foundation for lasting success, deeper relationships, and true fulfillment. Don't wait for tomorrow. The shift starts now. Focus inward, practice gratitude, and transform your life from the inside out.